My name is Grace Xavier. I work for the Osborne Association as the LGBT liaison. What that entails is that I navigate, I guide, I inspire LGBT people who are returning back from the community, whether that's been incarceration, mental health, or just out there in the street. I come from a very religious family, a mother and father who were not abusive, but the fear of disappointing them was very strong. So I was kind of rebellious and going against it. To them, I was disrespectful because I didn't care if they understood my behavior when I really was just being who I am. It's never been easy for people of color, and surely not the LGBT and T, and particularly transgender people. Well, I gave this event, it's called the Transgender Day of Remembrance. Transgender Day of Remembrance is basically to commemorate, remember, and celebrate. And the celebrate is something new because most TDORs, that's the acronym for Trans Day of Remembrance, it was always a sad event because we're being killed and are being killed. This year in 2018, thus far, it's been 29. That's 29 too many. We've been observing and remembering our fallen sisters and brothers. I believe that the word celebrate came to get away from the sadness of it all and to bring us up into the community and our allies to know that, yes, you've taken this 29, but the rest of us, we're still here, and this is what we're doing. Come celebrate with us. Lift us up. Pull us up with you.
When I don't know something, they will pull me up. They will help me out. And we all know that that's always not how it is when we go into the work field as a trans individual.
Well, at that event, we had Tianyang Wang, who's a part of the New York Transgender Advocacy Group, NITAG, where she spoke political to basically guide and to inspire us and to wake us up.
Transgender women are the ones being murdered. They're the ones that are suffering in this society right now.
We had Kim Watson.
Because administration is getting ready to erase you. And if you don't stand up and fight and let folks know and stop your cattiness and let your pettiness go, don't fight with me, go fight with him. And as I walk with power and authority.
We have a capacity there of 76. We broke it. We had almost 112 people in that one room. And we had the wonderful entertainment from Javon Egypt. People also had a wonderful hot meal. We had beautiful food. We had rotisserie chicken and salads and cupcakes, and we had a really nice meal. And it may sound very trivial and frivolous to someone else, but you have to understand a lot of times, that may be that person's only meal that night. So it was productive for me. It was productive for me. I feel that it hit where I wanted it to hit.
Don't forget my love.
My next step is that I want to venture back to the Department of Correction as a worker or a guest speaker. People need to see this, and particularly trans women, because we're in those prisons, we're in those jails. They need to see someone who was there less than 23 months ago. They need to see someone who has inspired from that to this. And one thing about people in general, you can read about it, you can hear about it, but when you know this person, and I'm pretty popular, people know me from the criminal behavior, people know me when I was homeless, people know me when I was going to college, people knew me when I'm doing the advocacy work, people knew me when I'm doing the improvising, they knew me when I was doing a lot of stuff. People need to know how I got there, and I want to bring it to them. So my next thing is that I want to start doing motivational tour to people who need to hear it. I don't need to toot my own horn with people who know this already. I want to toot my horn to people who need to say need to see that they can be a great Xavier too. It's not hard. Yes, it's hard, but it's a hard that won't hurt you.
You brought them together and you kicked off the T-Door Remembrance. You are the kickoff. You brought church. You brought allies. You brought correction officers. You brought the jail facilities. You brought you don't understand how much spirit you just brought in this space. I want you to trust unto the Lord and know that you're here for a reason. This is not just a job for him, but it's a job for the Lord, my love. Seriously, and I'm proud of you. Everybody, please give it up for Grace.
I've been painting my whole life, ever since I can remember. When I was in preschool, I loved doing finger painting all the way up until college. In my previous work, I was more focused, I feel, on making things that I thought other people would look pretty. So animals and flowers and beautiful landscapes. But I felt that I wasn't really in that myself. I was very focused on what will make other people happy, what will be something that will sell. About a year ago, I was sexually assaulted on campus, and I did everything that I could. I talked to the police, I talked to the university, but nothing ever came out of it, which sadly is what happens to most people that go through this experience. After the event, I felt like just a lot of happiness was just sucked out of my life, and all the colorful, beautiful things that I'd been painting before, they just seemed so meaningless. So I went back to black and white, and I really focused on, instead of the color and making it look pretty, on the form and how I was doing it and how I was painting it. And I decided that I wanted to do something that was for me. My current project is actually a photograph on my phone that I found. It's of my assailant, and it was taken 2 days before. And it was just a random snapshot I took on my phone, and about 6 months after it happened, I found it, and it kind of stirred up these feelings again of panic and fear and feelings that I can't even voice. I am currently kind of in an angry stage because I have done everything that I could and nothing came out of it, nothing's happening to him. So I've decided to take my life back into my own hands. I'm painting that picture that I found on it, and I've been peeling away the pieces of it that I don't want to see. So he has a body, but his face has been torn open by the cardboard. I'm writing small text inside the corrugated part of thoughts that he must have had during it, or that I think that he had during it. It's really powerful to me because it's being able to control something that I didn't have control of at the time. And so that's, especially since I think I'm gonna burn it when I'm finished, or take it outside and stomp on it, do something that I wish I could have done to somebody, but unfortunately I can't do that to a real person. But it's giving me a lot of control, and I think I'm gonna title the piece "Taking My Life Back."
Metro area churches have started Sunday services in the native language of Korean refugees. These immigrants, one of the Metro's largest but lesser-known communities, have started churches of their own, affirming the key role of Christianity in their lives. Current Associate Pastor Sao Lu is one of their leaders. This is the 7th year that Sao Lu works for the First Baptist Church in St. Paul.
My name is Saul, and I'm coming from Burma.
Before Sao Lu became a pastor, he fled from a civil war, also known as the current conflict in his then home country, Burma.
When our government came to our village, they burned our village, they burned our house, they burned our food, so we don't need any more place, any more house, any more food. So I have escaped our life. We flee to the Thai-Burma border to the refugee camp.
In the refugee camp, Sao Lu suffered from not only the poor living conditions, but also
no working is there, no job is there. We stay home, just eat and sleep and stay at the refugee camp. So our camp leader has started a Bible school at a refugee camp. I think that I have no job, that's no good for me. So I have to Bible school, graduated at a refugee Bible school. This picture is
After graduating from the private school, Saulu worked for a small church in the refugee camp, and then he came to the U.S.
Around 7 or 8 years ago, we called him to be a pastor at First Baptist Church. At the time, his English was pretty unsteady, but he's grown in that, and he often does the translating now. He ministers and does a lot of home meetings and home celebrations with my Karen members, and he also is an interpreter for me, not only of the language, but of the culture, what people are thinking and how they are thinking. So he has been invaluable as a fellow pastor.
For the current refugees who are also Christians, having current church here is important.
The Korean people, they have own church because they want to continue holding the culture, holding the language. When we came to this church, we have maybe Korean people, over 700 people, so have a lot of church members. So we want to, our Korean pastor, they want to buy a new building to have a different church. That's great. That is also more churches. So right now we had to stay at church, maybe only 100 church members at church.
Now, Saulu and his families live together in Minnesota, and he is satisfied with his life here.
I have my house, and I have a work in my jobs. My son have a job, my second son have jobs, and my kids are going to the college. They have got their scholarships from government, and the younger two kids, they go to high school, so are happy.
Saulu thinks although many his church members struggled with the culture shock when they came here, they still found ways to make their living.
My church member also going to the meat packaging, fruit production, and laundering, and Billy is plant the flower, the other many jobs that they work in here.
Also, some non-profit organizations here like KOM, which represents the current organizations of Minnesota, are offering significant helps to the current refugees and their community.
All of the current people, they can speak English, they can go to their community, they help like a food stamp, like health insurance, many things. They have, they help our current people. So right now, our current people in other states, who people know understands English language, they came here to the Minnesota too, because we have a big community.
Now, Saulu feels confident about current refugees' future in Minnesota.
When we work someplace, work well, do good job, do best, and thus we will get some money for our lives, to rent a building, to rent a house, to buy the house. The second generation, our kids, they will get education, they can speak English, so they will have a better life the new lives in America.
I'm not Mary Jane. Who's Mary Jane? I am.
For one American family, the adoption of a Chinese orphan was difficult but worthwhile.
Adopting has both changed my life and has really always been a part of my life.
Wendy Owens is a student at the University of Minnesota and the oldest of the 12 children in her family, and Mary Jane was the fourth adopted.
Mary Jane was born in Langfang, China. She was abandoned at our compound in China where we lived, and she was actually brought to us by the gate guards of the compound because they knew that we worked for an orphanage there in China.
Wendy's family decided to adopt Mary Jane after visiting the orphanage and working with Mary Jane for a while. However, The family had a hard time during the adoption.
The hardest part about adopting Mary Jane was that we were living in China, and as an American living in China, there's no standard policy for how to make that adoption be completed.
At the same time, Wendy's family were trying to adopt 2 other foster children, which violated a Chinese policy that one family could only adopt 1 child at that time.
We were trying to adopt 3 children, and we already had 4. So we didn't have any adoption agencies that were willing to help us. And so we appealed ourselves to the Chinese government.
Besides the legal issues, how to help Mary Jane accept her new life is another challenge that the family had to face.
The hardest part for her was definitely the questions that we would get. People would ask things like, oh, do you run a daycare? Or whose kid is this? And often what we would do is I would put my arm around her and say, this is my sister, and then we would walk away.
Wendy says the big thing that adopted children are struggling with is lacking the sense of belonging.
Every child you adopt, you really have to work with them to show them, no, you do belong. We chose you. You belong here. And so that's been a process with Mary Jane that we continue to this day. She has grown so much in it, but we continue to say, this is your family. You belong here. We love you. You don't give them a chance to forget.
As sisters, Mary Jane has the special meanings to Wendy.
Mary Jane is a very exciting and very lovely addition to my life. She is goofy, she is shy at times, but she has really taught me that it's okay to be oneself, that you can be goofy and a little crazy sometimes, and it doesn't matter what other people think, because you're having fun.
Wendy says, although Mary Jane came from a broken situation, she is growing and thriving with the hope for the life now. That teaches Wendy something.
We don't adopt to be heroes. We're not the heroes. The kids that we adopt are the hero. In the story, Mary Jane is the hero.
Xavier Wang, University reports.
Can't imagine. Can't imagine. Just horrified by that.
Police said the killing on 34th Avenue was murder-suicide. Donald Kulik, who has been in the community for 11 years, lives next door to the shooting.
My name's Don Kulik. I live up here 5430, next door to where the problem was the other day.
Talking about this neighborhood, people living here seem to reach an agreement.
It's a nice neighborhood. Yeah, really close community, you know.
Generally, I feel like our neighborhood's pretty safe.
Neighborhood seems to be pretty safe and easygoing, not much trouble here.
When I first moved here, there was a lot of old people. But like I say, I've been here 11 years, so a lot of them have passed away or moved on. So now it's kind of like middle-aged, 40s in there.
When the shooting happened, Kulik was sleeping next door.
I'm in 209, he's in 207. So right next door, a wall separates us. But bullets went through the other wall to the other apartment on the other side.
Kulik said his neighbor was actually a pretty quiet guy, and he still remembers the children next door.
I had a problem with it just because kids. I don't like the idea of kids that happening. Because I remember little kids running down the hall. And
very sad. Very, very sad.
Generally, I feel like Americans should be able to own guns. It's part of our rights. Do I feel like probably there's too many of them and maybe not everyone who has one needs one? Probably.
Am I scared? No, because I don't think any retaliation is going to happen.
No, I'm going to stick around. If something else happens, then maybe I'll, But it's not like a burglary or robbery or anything. It was a domestic thing, so I'm not worried about myself,
At this moment, we are still waiting for the investigators to release further information. Xavier Wang reports.